Yeah, host Keith the Madman, coming straight to you with movies, cigars, and a brew. Discussing movies while kicking back, whether they are good or they're bad. With the hottest movies and non-released, I am talking about details and what I see. So tune into the podcast while I vent with reviews, news, and nonsense, yeah.
And now, recorded live from the capital of the first state of these great United States, Keith.
Alrighty, today's movie that we're going to talk about is Nocturnal Animals. This is the sophomore effort by Tom Ford, who is better known as a fashion designer. This is a second directorial debut for him, and this really is a story within a story. It's a thriller that's based on the novel Tony and Susan. In it, Amy Adams plays a character, Susan Morrow, who is I'd call her a disillusioned art gallery owner. I mean, she has like a perfect life on the surface. You know, she has a lot of money. Her husband appears to be successful, although there's some cracks in that, as we soon find out. Her husband Hutton is played by Armie Hammer, and he's really self-absorbed, and you can see him in the opening sequences where he seems to be an uncaring mate, and he has some trouble with his business apparently. And as the movie goes on, you kind of get to feel from him, and you find out that he's probably unfaithful as well. You know, we see Susan being kind of unhappy in the very beginning, and she's sort of waxing nostalgic about some of the choices that she made in her life and what could have been. There, all of a sudden, you know, there comes this perfectly timed package, which is a book from her ex-husband, Edward Sheffield, who's played by Jake Gyllenhaal, which contains, you know, this novel that he has written and dedicated to her. And all we kind of really know at this point is that she has, by her own words and admission, greatly wronged her ex-husband. And so you're quite fascinated to see what this dedication really is going to contain. You know, just as she opens the package, in fact, she cuts her hand, with the paper cut, and sort of foreshadows the bitter pill that this book is going to represent. So, really, from here we have the elements of a story within a story. We basically have, moments where she's reading the book, and the book is actually portrayed on the screen. Jake Gyllenhaal plays as the main character, and besides that, she has the periods where she's back in her own life, and they tie in this third element where they look at the life that she and he shared together prior to, their marriage, their brief marriage, and you see that kind of all unfold in flashback sequences. So Gyllenhaal, Jake here, plays two roles. And the story is really the story within the story is really gripping. I mean, it's reminiscent of to me, it was reminiscent of a movie called Breakdown, but it's got a lot more sinister cast of characters that are involved with this abduction, and there's just this sense of hopelessness and helplessness that's throughout the novel, and you begin to realize that there is something to it and how that relates to his relationship with Amy Adams' character, and Gyllenhaal's fantastic. I mean, and he's pretty much matched by an equally amazing character portrayal by Michael Shannon, who plays a Texas law officer in the novel, Bobby Andes. The interrelated stories develop a full picture of what, the problems that Susan has had and the mistakes that she made in trading off one life that she thought she wanted for another. It just resonated. I think this was fantastic. Edward, who's played by Jake, he is not really fleshed out as well in the story. You don't really find out until the end his complete motivation and where he was going with it. And to me, it had a perfect ending. it's one that I kind of felt really good about at the end of it. I think this is a very engaging movie. I personally related to the message of the movie, and I think that this is one that you should go see. And it's definitely pretty artsy, but it's an ambitious effort by Tom Ford. And I'd like to see the next thing that he does, because this was great. It has a great cast, and it's done very well. Even Armie Hammer, who plays Amy Adams' wife, kind of has a really good role as well. Even though it was a small part, I really felt like everybody acted fantastically. And the real thing is that none of the stories would have been as interesting by themselves as they were when they were kind of interwoven together and created this. There's definitely some moments of reveal that are telling, and then you kind of get where this book plays into everything. I highly recommend it. I give it an A-. If you get an opportunity to check it out, I encourage you to do so.
You have been listening to the Movies, Cigars, and a Brew podcast. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. Find reviews of other movies, cigars, and beers at moviescigarsandabrew.com. Give a like on Facebook or follow Keith on Twitter at Movie Cigar Beer. Your trailer is coming up next.
Do you ever feel like your life has turned into something you never intended?
I'm worried about you. Were you sleeping? You scared me the last time we talked.
You know me. I never sleep. My ex-husband used to call me a nocturnal animal.
I didn't know you had an ex-husband.
I've been thinking about him a lot lately. And then recently he sent me this book that he's written. It's violent and it's sad. And he dedicated it to me.
Did you love him?
I did something horrible to him.
What are we gonna do? It's a question of how serious you are about seeing justice done.
Don't do this. You'll regret it. I really wanted to be this person that you thought I was.
You're crazy. You're making a big mistake. He'll never find out.
When you love someone, you have to be careful with it. You might never get it again.
It's fun to kill people. We should try it sometime.
Nobody gets away with what you did.